spirit of alchemy. Hello and welcome to another episode of The Spirit of Alchemy. We're all storytellers of new worlds, stories that shape our realities and the realities of those we engage with and or serve. The name of our show beautifully conveys transformation, creativity, and the turning of the ordinary into something extraordinary, whether in business, personal growth, or even cooking, like how simple ingredients can be turned into something magical. Today, our guest is Anele, a passionate foodie who founded Sweet Thymes, a catering business that shares love through the food it makes. She is here to share how her story came into being, a story that honors her soul rather than her fears, one that steps beyond limiting definitions of who she should be, and the story of the life that she is actively writing and living. I'm Bobby, and I'm handing over to my beautiful co-host, Rahima.
Hi, Bobby. I'm liking the beautiful. I'm going to claim it. Thanks for welcoming me to the show. And hi,
Anele.
Yeah. But I don't know if it's this one or this one, so I still need some advice on that one.
You and I are in the same boat.
We're in the same boat, right?
Yeah.
Millennials, clock it.
What are we talking about?
Oh, that's going to be a whole episode.
It's a whole episode on new lingo. So clock it.
Clock it, okay.
Clock it.
Right.
Or clock it. I don't know which one it is. I'm going to figure it out. And I'm going to know. Welcome on board, Anele.
Thank you.
So good to have you.
It's brilliant to be here.
The owner of Sweet Thyme. Love the wordplay on
Yes.
Sweet Thyme. Time, passage of time, but also time, the herb.
The herb, yeah.
And so the juxtaposition between the sweet and the savory, and that's the world of that's the world that you actually occupy.
Yes.
But you didn't start there. You're
No.
a trained accountant. You did a BCom accounting degree.
So not trained accountant per se, but I did do an accounting degree and I completed it.
Okay. You completed an accounting degree and you retired.
Oh wow. Retired at that age, yes.
That's what I'm calling it.
own it.
Everybody who was an accountant and chose to do something else is a retiree and started a new profession. And you went on and became a chef and are running a wonderful enterprise that we love. I mean, we've eaten your product. So I'm not speaking from a place of lack of knowledge of what it is that you do. But tell us a little bit about the journey from accounting to being a chef to running Sweet Thyme.
So the journey of being in the kitchen started honestly when I was 9. The journey to accounting was just purely by growing up in a black household where education was really valued, and therefore you needed to have a qualification. And my parents didn't fully understand that a creative education will make money as opposed to your old type of education, like being an accountant or being a doctor.
Were you born in the 70s?
80s.
Oh, okay.
So it was still that traditional career
Yes.
was the sought after.
Yes. So my dad wanted a
career that you
doctor,
could-
and my mom wanted a CA.
We know whose voice gets heard.
So I went down the accounting route. It just wasn't for me, personality-wise. I just felt like it was mundane. It's the same thing over and over again, number one. Number two, you just in a room with the same people all the time doing the same kind of work. And if you go into the auditing space, you're looking back at what's being done as opposed to creating and looking forward. And, so it just wasn't for me. It was a bit soul-crushing. And I figured this out first semester of university when we did VAC work. We did VAC work, and on the first day of the job, they made me count pens that this company owned. And I was just like, no, pens can't talk back.
They made you count pens.
I can't have
stock taking.
Stock taking. I can't have conversations with the pens. I can't ask them how their day was. I can't even share love with them and make them feel, like they're worthy or worth something. So I knew then that was not my career path. Then I worked in the medical aid industry. Story for another day. But when I finally did make it to corporate, I worked in the medical aid industry from your giants like Discovery and so forth. And I realized it was very soul crushing. I'm very empathetic. So I would take on people's pain and, the cases that I'd have to deal with. So getting married, my husband was just like, you're not happy, and the work that you do actually puts you in a depressive state. Let's find something that brings out your passions. Let's find something that gives you joy. And at that time, when we sat down and really evaluated it, being in the kitchen and creating food and making food for people is what brings me joy then and now. And that's how I ended up at culinary school. I started culinary school at 30. Most of my class was 17 years old.
Oh my goodness.
So that was a bit of a challenge in a nice way. It's not that we did not relate, but there were things that I'd already found simple that just wouldn't make sense to them. There were subjects that we would do that honestly I would get 100% in, and they're like, how? I'm like, guys, it's basic calculations, kind of thing. But that was my journey into getting into it. Once I was in it, there were some complexities that made me realize that I didn't leave corporate to join a different form of corporate. And at that time was when we were also starting our family, growing our family. And I'd realized I wanted to do something where I share my passion, I grow my business, but I'm still openly available for my kids. My dream job growing up, besides actually having a job, was to be the best mom and best wife possible. And that was it for me, because I grew up with parents that worked and weren't always available. They worked so they could give us the privileges that we had, so the good schools and so forth. But that means they weren't readily available for other things that I felt I needed them there for. So when we'd have netball games, we'd have the other kids' parents being available to come to netball games to serve us snacks, and my parents were always at work. So for me, that was my dream job, being that mom at that netball game. So when I started Sweet Thymes, I still said I still wanted it to be flexible in a way that I can still be there for my boys. And so far, so good.
Did you already have your kids when you started Sweet Thymes?
No.
Was this in anticipation of a family?
It was in anticipation of a family.
Okay.
So Sweet Thymes and the firstborn came same year.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, so Sweet Thymes.
She gave birth to two different
2013. So I gave birth to both our firstborn and the business in the same year. But the first 6 years of the business were very passion driven. So it wasn't driven about numbers. It wasn't driven by numbers. It wasn't driven by the amount of work we got. It was driven by taking on the jobs that I know will give joy and will give joy back. Also, if I'm not in a state where I feel I can take the work on because the baby needs something, I'm not going to take the work on. It was purely a passion project as opposed to bottom line business.
What I really liked in our we had the privilege of having a quick podcast chat. Something that really landed with me was the fact that you love sharing love through food. And that speaks to passion. That speaks to what everyone should do. You share love through what you do. Now, your love of food, I just want to go back again, timeline check, and just, you said you started, your involvement in the food business started at 9.
Yeah.
And now you've already having your business starting, firstborn. That passion for food, that 9-year-old getting interested in food, how did that
come about?
How did that come about? But before you answer that, I just want to read a little, potentially a controversial statement, which I got from my friend ChatGPT. I should up my game
That's
a bit.
his BFF,
I should start referring to like Claude.
I was about to say that you don't want to get introduced to Claude and DeepSeek, because then your friends will start fighting.
No, I've got a circle of friends, a network. They all talk to each other.
Okay.
Anyway, this is, as I said, it might be a controversial statement, but let's unpack it. Behind every successful man, there is a strong woman. That's this old saying. And now it says that it's in brackets. And depending on who you ask, sometimes could be a surprised mother-in-law, a very patient partner, or a long list of people who believed in you when you didn't believe in yourself. And it goes on to say, the classic line endures because it points to a deeper truth. Success is rarely solitary. It's scaffolded by support, challenge, love, and accountability.
And I fully agree with that, because for me, it's taken a village.
And it's taken a village, but that's what I found lovely about your story, which you're going to share with us now, just in terms of that 9-year-old.
So I grew up with divorced parents, right? My parents divorced very young. They went on to become best friends. But
they got the co-parenting
model right.
That I want to unpack
back in the 80s, which is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
They got the co-parenting right from the word go. It's people healing separately to find what needs to work for the children more than themselves.
I think that's an important thing for us to bring into conversations, because we sometimes think these are modern constructs for the African. No. But the reality is that we've been living these. Perhaps they haven't been elevated in our conversations, or perhaps we just haven't found spaces for them to actually
find room
to engage with them.
True.
So you come from a family that was divorced but actually worked successfully separately and together. And you said that you grew up with your grandmother.
So I come from divorced parents. We lived with my maternal grandparents.
Okay.
So the love of food comes mostly from both grandparents on both sides. Mm-hmm. So we grew up in a township. I grew up KwaMashu in Durban with my maternal grandparents. And then my paternal grandparents lived in the rural areas in just off the north coast of KZN in a small place called Inyoni. Mm-hmm. So in school holidays...
Give us a sense of what rural meant and looked like back then.
Cows, goats, big plots of land. In our case, we had everything that you could plant. My grandmother on the farm planted everything. Okay. She didn't buy fresh produce, anything. Onions, tomatoes, carrots.
Just grew her own stuff.
It grew her own stuff, So that was rural. But it's rural because you also didn't have access to electricity, running water, paved roads. We still don't have access to many of those amenities that we take for granted on a daily basis on our plot of land till this day. So that was what rural meant. Mm-hmm. So during school terms, we'd be at our maternal grandparents' home with my mom and my sister, and then come school holidays, we'd go off to the rural areas. Now, dietary exposure were completely different. So that was the first element of, okay, food is different here than when we go to the other granny's place, Then we went to schools outside of the township. So your township diet was also very different to what we were exposed to when it came to school. I remember when I first moved to high school and I went to a mixed race school, which was previously known as a white school. I went to Durban Girls High, and that was my first exposure to a lasagna.
Can't understand that dish, but yeah.
No, I love lasagna. So it was my first exposure to a lasagna. My sister had already been there for 2 years prior to me arriving, and she had already started exposing us to other dishes that we, were not exposed to.
So she'd come home and
she'd try it out. My sister also did home economics in high school.
Oh my goodness.
So we were her guinea pigs, but we loved it. Okay. Till today, I'll tell you, my sister makes the best milk tart ever.
We're coming for it, hey?
Do come over.
Is that what's arriving just now?
I don't know why it's not here.
I had a crazy day yesterday. So it was the different exposure and the different environments that I'd be exposed in that also would grow my intrigue and my curiosity around food. Also the types of food that we eat as locals and that we are told is indigenous. So a lot of black household eat a lot of mealie meal, and we told that is an indigenous food. It's not.
No, it's not.
Millies don't come from Africa. They ended up being the staple in most black households because of cost, because of the easy process of milling them. So now in the last 5 years, I've actually started doing research on indigenous grains. And in our household, we eat sorghum weekly. We actually eat sorghum more than we eat pap. And a lot of people are shocked that we eat sorghum the way we eat sorghum, because in our cultures, sorghum is used to make beer and ding. Now, if you grow up in KZN, we don't know what ding is. I was first exposed to ding when I moved to Gauteng, and I'm like,
love it.
So what is ding?
Fermented sorghum.
Okay.
So it's actually really good for your gut.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorghum as a whole is a superfood. The amount of antioxidants that are in it, it's way better for you than is millies. The reason why the continent moved to millies as opposed to keeping to things like sorghum or millet and stuff is because commercially it was more viable for the people in power at the time to sell us millies. Secondly, it cooks faster than your sorghum. So having sorghum, what I do in my house is I'll cook it on a Sunday for 2 hours and until it's ready. I won't flavor it. I'll portion control it. So we'll portion it out and I freeze it. So during the week, all I'm just doing is making a tomato sauce and throwing my sorghum in, and supper's ready.
I like you've already given me a tip for this week.
And sorghum's ready. And I always get the question where people say, where do you find your sorghum? I find it at Woolies, guys.
Willie sells sorghum.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I am of the opinion that the best sorghum comes from Botswana, but
Yes.
I am biased.
And I don't disagree with you, but finding it, you can find it at, there's quite a few local resellers and people that actually grow it. We're getting more and more growers in Gauteng. But finding them sometimes it becomes a stretch. And if I'm still introducing these concepts to people, and I know the people shop at Woolies in any case, I'm like, guys, sorghum is at Woolies.
Okay, we can relax
right
on the
next to the
plug.
rice. Right next to the rice, you're going to find your sorghum. You know, it's way more healthier for you. It's gluten-free. It's got tons of antioxidants.
And it tastes good.
Sorghum is to us what quinoa is to South America.
Yeah.
So everything you can find in sorghum, in quinoa, you can find in sorghum and more.
Okay. That's amazing. I had no idea.
A lot of
There
people
we go.
do.
Oh, we must have
we'll try
a
and-
taste
I'll
testing.
Do some sorghum, yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to have to bring us a few samples with the
No
different
problem.
sources.
It
But
definitely will.
this exposure to all the different, so the rural grandparents, what your grand grew, everything sort of
Farm to table.
farm to table,
table.
Yeah, the original, right?
That original version. So you're getting this exposure to all these blended types of foods, or different types of foods. The 9-year-old growing up, you commercialized that already at an early stage.
Yes. My first food business was in grade 4. Yes, I remember I sold, I'm a keep, but the red ones, it's chips.
Okay.
So because we couldn't trust that I could actually make food that other people outside of my family could consume.
Okay.
You know, so we started there, but that was also just my entrepreneurial spirit. There wasn't a goal of me raising certain amount of money. I just knew that I needed to have access to money if and when I need to buy things that my parents would not pay for.
Yeah.
So that was the first business. Then it morphed and grew to baking scones for the community. So if someone had a funeral, they would buy these scones from me. Coco would find us clients. My sister and I still laugh that people actually not only ate the stuff we baked, they came back for more. The first few customers honestly
scones
came
are a
back because
thing.
they were Coco's friends.
Yeah,
Scones are a thing. You go to
If they were
particular
edible
people.
or not is questionable. You know, they are a thing, and you do go to a specific person for your scones once you find your scone person. But that's how it started, to the point where I got to high school, and our high school used to offer licenses. You could purchase a license, and you could be I'm not going to use the word reseller. You could sell homemade goods for the whole year. Our licenses were cheap. It was R5 for the whole year.
Yeah.
But the whole point of the program at school was you need to produce the goods yourself. They wouldn't allow you to resell.
Okay, no reselling, but stuff that you make
You make.
yourself.
So
Yeah.
some people would sell fudge, people would sell Cook Sisters. My sister actually made popcorn. She was known as the popcorn lady. And I sold sausage rolls. And I'd bake sausage rolls every single morning before getting on the bus. So while I'm getting ready, the sausage rolls were in the oven. And, you know, until I got to university, and I didn't really enjoy the offerings on campus because they were fast, unhealthy stuff. And sometimes I just wanted a proper meal. So I'd cook and say, you guys can pay me for a plate. I had my first corporate job catering-wise while I was second year university, and we used the kitchen, and I put a sign on the kitchen door, no entry, busy working.
So, just preparing food, recipes that you followed. Talk us through that. So, was this a lot of hand-me-down recipes from grandmothers, family recipes for the scones, for whatever it was that you were making, the sausage rolls? Was it an
Yeah.
experimentation thing? Because this is all a self-learning at this stage. You haven't been to chef school yet.
Yeah.
Here you're doing
It's a combination
school,
of
you're
things.
doing accounting, but your passion is sneaking into your life and
Yes.
I want to
taking it
add
over.
to that. I want to add to that because I mean, my memory as a 9-year-old African woman is that going to the kitchen, it must come out with food. And so knowing about food doesn't translate to knowing how to prepare food.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
just-
wanting to prepare
and
food,
wanting to
because we
prepare
also
food.
just automatically think everyone wants to be in the kitchen.
And that's not the
And that's-
case.
exactly.
That's not the
Exactly.
case. So, what was your influence to want to? You had your sister. You had exposure to different types of food and food varieties. What was your exposure to actually preparing the food? How did you get into that?
It was my grandmother and my sister. So question-wise, I ask a lot of questions. I still do as an adult. So at that time when Gogo would be cooking supper, I'd be asking questions. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that?
Which Coco?
My maternal one, the one that we lived with. Even when we'd go to the farm, the rural paternal grandmother, she actually sold vetkoek samakwenya at the local school. So I would ask questions when they'd be preparing stuff. And eventually my grandmother and my sister were just like, enough now. And my grandmother got me a crate to stand on, a cold drink crate, so I could see the top of the stove. I mean, there were 2 pots that my sister and I ended up throwing away because I burnt them so terribly. We never told Coco that. May her soul rest in peace.
It always disappeared.
Yes. So in terms of recipe, Bobby, I laugh because a few times I've been asked to do recipe books. And it's difficult for me. I know the recipes because they've been passed down by teaching, not written. So I always say, for example, my sister makes the meanest, most beautiful lamb curry.
Okay.
I can replicate it as close as possible, but I can't to the T. Because if someone asks us how much curry powder do you put in, we say you throw in until your grandmother's in your ear, or like, that's enough, child.
Yeah.
You know, kind of thing. So I am learning, having been to chef school, how to formalize it and actually write it down. But most of the recipes were literally just recipes that were passed down, with things, trying out new things. And then as the years went on, my sister got us library cards at the Durban Municipal Library, and we would take the bus into town to get recipe books.
Yeah.
While other kids in the library were reading story time, and we were actually there looking for recipe books. I remember the first cheesecake we made came from a recipe book that we got in town. And my mom firstly took weeks to convince her to buy us the ingredients. We had to return the book and borrow the book a few times before she agreed to buy us, and she bought us half the stuff we needed, not everything. And because she was just like, this is expensive, number one. 2, she also never heard of cheese that was not yellow. You know, 3, cheesecake, like we Black, we Zulu, we live in KwaMashu. How are you making cake out of cheese? And we actually made it, and she saw what it was that we wanted to make. And she's like, oh, I've seen this before, but it's only in hotels eaten by white people.
Oh, wow.
You know, and then trying to get neighbors to taste our cheesecake.
Yeah, just the name cheesecake is like,
My husband still can't get over it. He's always, this was last week. He says to me, I don't understand why this tastes good, but it's cheesecake. And why it's not yellow, because cheese is meant to be yellow.
and it's not salty, right?
You know?
Yeah.
You know, it's like the neighbor that lived next door, Babum Kize, and I shared her birthday. So every year I'd actually bake him cake, and his favorite cake was carrot cake. The family at the time didn't get it. Why can't you make a chocolate cake or vanilla cake? This carrot cake. So it took a while for them to actually even eat the carrot cake. But when they finally got round, it was just like, wow, the carrot cake is amazing. And they'd look forward to the carrot cake on his birthday. And once he was gone, I mean, his daughters still send me messages to say we miss the carrot cake so much, because we moved and he passed on. So I stopped making them the carrot cake. But, you know, so the recipes were just passed down, word of mouth, and a lot of research at the time as well.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
research was different. We didn't have Instagram. We didn't have, you know, a lot of things that are easily accessible now.
How aware were you when you were doing all this? The more you got into it, did it just ignite the fire more and more and more? That you just, you know, you said earlier, your husband said, you know, find something that gives you joy, work-wise. Were you already aware of how much you enjoyed it? Because
No.
often we're doing stuff and we don't really know how much fun we're having. We don't know that we're actually in flow, but they just seem to be blissful times. But when did this sort of turn into something that it's, you know, recipes and learning and testing? It's almost like you're on a career trajectory already when you're at school. you've already identified that, but here you go off and do something corporate.
Honestly, because it wasn't in my career path, it wasn't something I had ever considered. I didn't think that it was a career journey until I went to culinary school, until we made that decision for me to go into culinary school. Up until that point, I just enjoyed the kitchen.
Can you pause there for me? You said we made that decision. Often you hear people say, I made that
No,
decision.
not in my case.
Talk to us about the we making
The
that
we
decision.
part, and the we part is not just myself and my husband. The we part, and this is why, Bobby, I say it takes a village.
Yeah.
For me, it's been a village because my sister, my mom, my dad a lot, and my husband have believed in me in the kitchen more than I have on most days. Sweet Thymes has now been around. This year is going to be year 13.
Congratulations.
Sure.
And there were
Okay.
times where I wanted to try something else, and that village of mine would be like, no, just breathe and stay the course, So the we part comes mostly from my husband and myself, because when I realized that corporate wasn't working out for me, he was the one who sat me down and said, my love, find something that brings you joy. It's work because you go there, but it's not work when it brings you joy first.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's that saying,
Yeah. Okay.
people that have made it are people that, find joy in what they do
Yes.
more than going to it because of the income. So the we part is that when I actually decided to go to culinary school and we made the decision to take that jump, my dad was very hesitant. And at the time, my parents had already paid for my first degree.
Yeah, and
So-
you were not a doctor.
No. So I really disappointed him by not becoming a doctor. Now I wanted to go back to school when I was actually working and I was, had
At the age
income.
of?
29. And I was married at this point. I got married young. So at this point, when we first sat them down and I need money for culinary school, because culinary school was not cheap.
Okay.
And my dad looked at me and said, no, that's not happening. You don't get to have those choices in life. You've got a well-paying job. You're doing well at work. Just be an adult.
Yeah.
Suck it up and be an adult. And my husband and my mom, who are very close, sat down and said, you know what? We can do this. If we pull our resources together and we breathe, we can actually do this. So it was my mom and my husband who actually put me through culinary school.
Oh, wow.
That actually paid for culinary school. But yeah, it was a we thing. It wasn't an I thing at all. In terms of actually making the decision of going back, my sister was heavily involved in it.
Yeah.
And she was also just like, but he's right. You are most happiest in the kitchen.
So your happiness was the most important thing to those who loved you.
It still is. It still is. They know how to do it well.
So we go into, so you're now in culinary school, complete switch from numbers, which is still a core of you can do numbers in your sleep, you say, to now working with food. And it still goes back to working with people, because you hinted in your intro that it was still a corporate experience. Now, many people are not aware of what it is like to be a chef. What is the kind of environment that you were in as a chef? And because, I mean, we have this glamorous, we see food. And remember, we're in an era of digital media. So it looks very, let's do this, let's do that. We've moved on from the, the grumpy old white men chefs. Sorry, not that you're the
Have
chef.
we moved on?
Well, the media presentation of them
yes,
is
true.
very brash, very rude, and somehow they are the owners of the greatest recipes, the whole Michelin agenda. What was it like for
Funny
you?
enough, we're watching a Netflix show currently that speaks about the Michelin agenda. Because I still have an issue with the fact that there are no Michelin-starred restaurants in the Southern Hemisphere, particularly in Africa. Not just the Southern Hemisphere, the whole of Africa, but that's a story for another day. In terms of what it's like being a chef, now is very different, and I'd say very different over the past 10 years qualifying as a chef in South Africa.
Tell us more.
10 years ago or more, the industry was very white male dominated.
And what did that mean? What did that translate to?
Anger, frustration.
From which side?
Both sides.
How?
Both sides, and I'll explain. No offense, Bobby. White,
Oh, no,
white
no.
South Africans
I'm not a chef.
every
I'm
single
not a
white
chef.
man.
I'm not a chef.
You're like, you guys are not talking about me.
No.
Like, where must I
not
take
just
this?
in chef world, but white males are very angry. I don't know what they deal with, but they're very angry. Then they bring it into the kitchen and the workspace.
When we say they're angry, what is our experience of that anger? Because we can sit back and say we're angry, and as Black people, we're common like, clock it, I get you. But what does that actually mean? What was your personal experience of how that anger represented itself?
Condescending tones, feeling like being told that you are not worthy, you're not good enough, you're never going to comprehend that level of skill that comes with being at their level.
Okay.
You know,
expertise was
belonged
to certain people.
Certain people, yes.
Okay.
So coming in as a chef, as a young chef, and I'd still say young because I was, early 30s, as a Black young chef in South Africa into established institutions was very tricky because in the kitchen, front of house, you guys get a finished product, and you like it. But back of kitchen is completely different, especially in the time that I started, where the qualified people don't look like me, from them being males to them being a different race. And then the rest of the kitchen is unqualified, unskilled Black labor. So you also need to walk into the kitchen with that saying, where do you then find balance and where do you fit in?
You fit in from a skills level, but not from a racial
profile.
Okay.
But on both sides, because even the Black unskilled labor is looking at you as an enigma.
You're an outsider.
What do they do with you? You're an outsider. What do they do with you? You speak better English than 90% of them. You come skilled, and therefore they already think your mindset is different, and you're going to treat them like how they've been treated previously. And generally, I was taught we treat everyone equally. So just walking in and greeting the Black staff takes them aback. Did she just greet us?
Like basic humanity.
Me wanting to help with sweeping at the end of the shift, whereas the general qualified people are not doing that. They work and they walk away. But I'm still at the level where I'm taught to you clean up after yourself.
Social cultural norms.
Cultural norms, things like that. So it was it's still corporate, but in a different way. And this is why when I came into the space, I was just like, I didn't go to chef school and I didn't change my whole career to still end up in corporate and what I felt corporate was, besides in the kitchen.
Framing a particular identity around you.
So still a very present hierarchical structure that you now have even if it's in the kitchen. I mean, it is there. And chefs, the ones that are certainly turned into celebrities, are generally these angry types. You just see them
anger sells.
Oh, no, but every movie that's made, there's so much ego. It's like, so now you've got all these qualifications and you're trying to fit in to this very diverse environment.
No offense and nothing against him, but look at Gordon Ramsay, for example. And
that's his reputation.
That is his reputation. But we looked up to people like that because of what they produce. I
looked up to Nigella. You don't even know who she is.
I do know who Nigella is. I do. She was just a bit weird for me. She was always. I don't know whether it was too on the opposite side of the spectrum where women were supposed to be calmer and they spoke in a certain tone.
That's true.
So I felt like
a stereotype.
Yes. So I felt like Nigella was put into a stereotype because she was also very big and popular in a time when there weren't any other women. So she was told to fit a specific mold in order for her to make it, and things like that. Funny enough, I looked up to Anthony Bourdain. He's late now.
Yeah.
But it was because of both his kitchen skills and his love for travel.
Yes.
He used to do a show called The Layover. The Layover is actually what got hubby and I into travel. Unfortunately, we don't have Anthony Bourdain's passport. We have to apply for visas everywhere.
You can't just get up and say, I think
there's a layover. Flying back from Japan last year, I had a 14-hour layover in Paris. But I couldn't just walk into Paris and explore it in those 14 hours. I was stuck at the airport because I didn't have Anthony Bourdain's passport.
The realities of an African passport. Another podcast.
Yeah.
And having that experience then as a black woman chef in an era where we don't have that kind of role modeling. We don't have that kind of positioning. But you were clear that the kind of institutional construct that existed didn't work for you. And
that's how Sweet Thymes came about.
Okay, so what was your vision for it? What did you intend with Sweet Thyme?
Initially, there was no vision.
Oh, I love it when people say that because everybody thinks an entrepreneur starts off with a business canvas.
With a business plan and we know what we're doing. No, I didn't know what I was doing for the first 10 years.
10?
Well, 10 years might be an exaggeration, but all of the way up to my first employee. I mean, Dumi was with me for 2 years before I actually had a plan.
I love that.
You know, we just did what the client wanted us to do. And, you know, we still pride ourselves on that. So if a client's coming in and it's a dinner for two and it's a romantic dinner, we'll sit down and we'll tailor make a menu for you, and that's what we'll do. If you're getting married next week and you need a wedding cake, that's what we'll do. Even if you come in, we never say no, we don't know what you're talking about. We'll come in, we'll have the conversation with you, and once you walk out the door, we are doing research like crazy. You know, until Dumi came on. When I started Sweet Thymes in Johannesburg, it was before the days of social media. Social media was already starting. I was on Facebook because I've, funny enough, been on Facebook, I think, since 2008, if not earlier, when Facebook first arrived in our shores. But I wasn't using it as a business tool. And I'm still really bad in the social media handles. But so it was word of mouth, which I really, really appreciated. And I still do to this day because I feel word of mouth comes with a testimony. If someone's referring you for my product, they're already saying it's a product worth trying. It's a product worth giving a chance. So we grew by word of mouth until we are where we are today. And because of that, for the first 6 years of the business, people thought we only made cakes. Because people would only refer us for cakes. You know, our first
carrot cake, cheesecake,
milk tart,
celebration
that she's gonna deliver to us.
So for the first 6 years of the business, we literally only did cake. And then I started mentioning to people, you guys know we actually make hot food. And they're like, no, we already have someone we use for catering. And I'd be like, oh, okay. Until a friend actually hosted a dinner for her husband. And that's how we actually got our first corporate client. So she'd hosted a dinner. One of the ladies that attended the dinner does procurement at the company that she works at.
Oh, wow.
And she was like, wow, dinner was amazing. Can you do this for corporates? And I said, definitely. And that's how we got into corporates. Because people always ask me how we got into corporate catering. And I was like, purely word of mouth. Also, my thing is you always put your best foot forward because you never know who you're serving. You know, so when I started Sweet Thymes, it was also the work environment must be one that grows the people that work in it.
What does that look like?
Happy staff relate to profit.
How do you do that? I mean, entrepreneurship is rife with ups and downs. It takes a toll on you as an entrepreneur. You kind of have to exist in a particular way to not only just embody it, but to translate it for others. What's that been like?
It's tricky. But I treat the staff more like family more than staff. There are times where that does play against me. But for most part, they then treat the business like their own.
Tell us how you treat your family, because we're hearing how your family treats you. They support you, they uphold you.
How do you reciprocate to the village?
Yeah. I mean, we got the sense she said, no, my husband, takes care of stuff. So, okay, well, that gives you a bit of latitude to focus on other things. So how do you translate that? What is the experience of you?
Behind every successful man, there is a strong woman. ChatGPT.
Behind every successful person, there is a village. That's how it should be.
Yeah.
True. So I play my part in the village in the way that they need me to play the part at the time. So currently I'm thrust into a leadership position in the family. So unfortunately for us, we lost my dad in April of last year.
Deepest condolences.
Thank you. It was a huge loss. He led the family. He did it seamlessly. He actually made it look like it was a walk in the park. So, no, it's not. So when he passed, it sort of left a vacuum.
Yeah.
I don't know how and when I became the one that fills that vacuum. You know, which is still weird because some of the people in the family are older than me. But they'll still come to me for decision making and things like that. So trying to find my feet in that, but it happens. So that's one way I play the role of in my village. But when it comes to our household, it's one of support for my husband. We're a crazy household because I always say in South Africa, it works if one person is actually employed. But in our house, we both entrepreneurs.
Oh, that's an interesting dynamic.
We both entrepreneurs. So there's decisions that you need to make for the family that might not benefit you immediately, but will be able to sustain you long term. So I'll make the example. My husband studied his executive MBA at INSEAD back in 2016. At the time, we had 2 children under the age of 3. We were fairly still young. We are still young, and we had to make the decision of whether we buy a house in a nice suburb that we can afford, and he continues a corporate, or we give up those luxuries for him to go to INSEAD, and we were self-funded, which was crazy. Because if you ever look up INSEAD fees, especially the executive MBA, it's the cost of a house in Sandton. Yeah.
It's a well-positioned house
in
a really good
neighborhood. And we were like, a lot of people thought we were crazy for it, but a lot of people thought I was crazy for it. I've had a lot of people ask me how the relationship survived when people don't survive local MBAs. A lot of people would say MBAs end marriages.
It's the marriage breaker.
Yes. We did an executive MBA internationally and our marriage still survived. So with the executive MBA at INSEAD, it's not a full-time course. You're at school every 6 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, but school is not across the road. School is you flying out to a different country. At the time when we were doing it, and I say we is because we did it together.
They really should confirm marriage MBAs.
Yes. When we did it, he was based at the Abu Dhabi campus, but they would then also have classes in Fontainebleau, in Paris, in France, and in Singapore. Loved it because we also got to travel. I got to see the campuses, all of them. There was that aspect of it. But his actual cohorts had people from 52 different countries across the globe. So you get access to that. So it was also just the support of that because it wasn't an easy journey. There's the financial aspect to it. It was also, if you guys remember the time that we went to bed one day with one finance minister and woke up to bed the next morning with a different finance minister. And my husband was in the air when that happened. So the rand plummeted while he was in the air. And by the time he lands, the money that we'd saved up for him to be able to eat while he was there had disappeared. And he's like, baby, was there nobody in the account? I'm like, no.
It's there.
It's there.
Just looks different.
It looks different because of things that happened while you were in the air. And for our politicians to turn around and say, if it's on the floor, we'll pick it up. They still have not picked it up, this many years later. So things like that, we'd have to stay calm through. My mom always just says, Wuti, we're crazy, the two of us, for some of the decisions that we've made. But it plays into us supporting each other's decisions because we understand our long-term vision as a family. We also understood the value of doing an international EMBA at the time. It wasn't just the coursework, it was also the networks you get to build. When he finished the course, he then was able to start a business with classmates from the Netherlands and so forth. So
it's interesting to say, I mean, sounds like you have a wonderful relationship with your husband.
I hope so.
But you have a long-term vision for yourself as a family, obviously for yourselves as a couple, and also just sense being that you've defined the roles that you each play in the relationship, which I think is obviously really important, understanding who is facing what challenges and how you share stuff. So that sounds like really sorted. But Rahima asked you earlier, what was the plan? What is the plan for Sweet Thymes?
Oh,
you're going with the flow. But where it's
no.
So
we're no longer going with the flow. I'm too old to be going with the flow.
Is everything Does everything now has that vision crystallized? I mean,
It's taking shape. When Tumi first joined me, Tumi is now the kitchen manager. With Dumela Moti says she's absolutely beautiful. When Tumi first joined me in 2018, she approached me, and I'd known her because she'd worked for a cake shop up the road from my house, and I was still working from home at the time. They had their own struggles at the cake shop. They'd been very busy that May, and Tumi didn't get paid. And then she approached me to say she feels like it's coming to an end for the cake shop. I said, no, hold on. You guys are really busy. And June it did end. So Dumi then approaches me and says, please, can you employ me? Now I look at Dumi, and I had a tiny kitchen. My kitchen was the size of this room we're shooting in. Yeah. And Dumi's big. I'm not tiny. And I look at Dumi and I said, girl, look at you. Look at me. How are we going to fit in my kitchen? And she says, we'll take turns. If I'm on that side of the counter, you can be on that side.
She had a solution.
Yeah, that was the first question I asked her. The next question is, I don't doubt your skill or anything, but where am I going to find clients to pay you? On average, I'm happy with what I'm making now, and I'm working at home, and it's a passion project. I'm not looking to have overheads. If I employ you, where am I going to find the clients to pay you? She literally, with a straight face, looked me straight in the face and said, God will make a plan. God has made a plan since.
Amazing,
We've grown since then, but the vision has also grown since then. So I found myself on a few entrepreneur programs since, having moved out of home. Funny enough, that's how we found CoSpace when it was still CoSpace, now Work Pods. Because my kitchen was too tiny for Tumi and I started doing the research, and that's how we left the house and moved into this space. And then I started finding programs while I was here, and that made me think, okay, what do I actually want this business to look like?
These are supply or enterprise development programs.
Programs, yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes. That's a whole other episode.
And I know who to invite for it.
It's a whole other episode. But anyway, these programs made me think, because these programs also expose you to information that you didn't necessarily know that you don't have. Things like compliance and so forth and so forth. So being in the programs, I then started doing my research and realizing what I wanted to do with the brand. So we still do the catering, and we're going to continue with the catering. We're not going to take that away completely. But long term, we produce for the hospitality industry, and then long term, we want to get into retail. And this is baked goods. So we want you to be able to walk into a convenience shop, and the croissants in the case are made by Sweet Thymes. We want you to be walking into a store around the corner from you, and you've got muffins that have been produced by Sweet Thymes, But we want you also to stay at your guest house, Airbnb, hotel, and the breads that you're having for breakfast are produced by Sweet Thymes. So that's the journey that we're currently on. We are in a bigger space now, and we have been funded for the equipment, and we are now doing product development for those products that we want to then supply to the different tiers of our growth plan. It is tricky because we then have to think of things like compliance and shelf life and things like that. So we've always been a scratch make business where everything is made to the customer's needs at the time that the customer needs it. So it's completely fresh, it's handmade. Now we're at a point where we have to think about shelf life and look into preservatives and getting things tested by labs and so forth and so forth. So that's the tricky part of the journey, but that's where we're at right now.
Interesting. So, from really humble beginnings to where you are now, fantastic journey.
Yeah.
Also, we spoke about the angry white male chefs that are out there. That a lot of people are in cooking for their own sake, for their own brand, that they are the brand behind what they do. But your vision is certainly not creating an Anele brand. It's around creating Sweet Thymes, something that is going to be sustainable. It almost sounds like you're wanting to build a legacy business that you can leave for your kids or whoever follows.
Yes.
What is that looking like in terms of the people that are behind you, that you're creating the sustainability, creating this legacy for? Is it for your whole village? Is it for kids in particular? Why do you want to leave this as a legacy?
Okay, currently, and I mentioned this, we employ 100% female.
Not complaining.
100%
Okay,
black
no
female.
angry males, period.
So there's no anger.
No. Yeah, our kitchen's actually quite a happy space. We play music the whole day, we sing, we work, we dance,
Utopia.
Yes. So it's going forward. So when you go into the space, a lot of people ask, do you hire skilled labor, having also had that experience of unskilled labor? Besides Buitumelo, everyone else in my kitchen is actually not skilled to be in the kitchen.
Okay.
Do I prefer unskilled labor? Yes.
Why?
Why? I love to teach, but not in a formal, structured way. I love taking a blank canvas. As long as you're willing to learn and you have the capacity to learn, I will take you through the journey of taking you from step by step by step by step to where I need you to be at. Also, when you come in as a blank canvas, you're not coming in with preconceived notions of how you should be doing things. If I'm saying we're making a double chocolate, choc chip, white mixed chocolate, we are doing that. You're not going to say to me, but white and brown chocolates are not supposed to mix for whatever reason. So it's easy for me to work with blank canvases, not because I don't like being told what to do, but I also just don't like conflict.
You can mold them to your way of doing business.
Yes.
They can just align with the story that you're giving them to sort of buy into and believe into.
Yes.
But that's also amazing, the training that you're giving people.
Yes, but also we don't limit you. So some of my staff come in and they don't necessarily want to be in the kitchen. They come in because they need a job and they need income. Yeah. So when you come in and you become part of the family, we are going to routinely check, what would you actually like to do past the kitchen? See if there are ways that we can help you get past the kitchen. There are a few things that I honestly feel everyone should be able to do. Drive and swim.
Life skills. I couldn't
Drive and
agree more.
swim.
And swim.
Yeah, swimming is a life skill.
Yeah.
Because as Black people, we don't emphasize how much you need to know how to swim because it's a life skill. Like now there's floods in Limpopo and Mpumalanga. Trust and believe, most of the people that will drown are Black people because we're not given that skill just to survive. Drive, because if you learn how to drive, you can always feed your family. Because driving is an actual qualification that you can make a living out of. So currently, I'm on a program on making sure everyone in my kitchen they are fighting me tooth and nail.
It's an interesting...
Because they're just like, why do we need to drive? We're not going to be the delivery people. You don't know. I'm not looking for you to be the delivery people, but it's a life skill that I need everyone to have. It's different from my family, how I support my family. The kids, and people say I'm very strict on this, need to be able to speak a foreign language. Find one that you feel is going to work for you. They need to do martial arts. So both kids have gone up to an acceptable level of taekwondo, and you need to play a music instrument. And we figured that if they start on piano, it's the most difficult one. They can then grow at different times into other instruments, but both our kids play piano. The foreign language, so you can find yourself across the continent. So whether you speak French or Portuguese or Mandarin, you will find a way across the continent and the world. Taekwondo or martial arts, so you can defend yourself and you never find yourself in a situation where you cannot defend yourself. Music instrument is you can always make money.
One way or another.
If everything else you try to do does not work, you will always have income by knowing how to play a music instrument.
But you'll also always have income if you know how to feed people.
True.
That's true.
People will always need to eat.
Yeah.
Food never goes out of fashion.
True. We have trends, things change, but food itself, in its simplest form, never goes out of fashion.
Yeah.
So just in terms of a message to our viewers, people that are have a leaning towards food, getting into it, what would summarize your experience with food? What best describes it for you? What motivation could you give them to say,
Firstly,
this is...
in anything, my husband always says, Nike, just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it. Every time I try to pass a new idea past him, he's just like, Nike, just do it. So it's the same with food. If you want to follow your passion for food, just do it. Secondly, be open to feedback. You know, our taste buds are not the same. And sometimes people in my industry don't take feedback very well because we think this is how it's, you know, I'm an expert and this is how it's supposed to taste, look, feel, everything, all your senses on that plate. Be open to feedback. And the entrepreneurial journey that word always gets me, that one. As a whole is complex. So build your own village. It doesn't necessarily have to be your home village, like your family, but build a village around you where sometimes when you're frustrated and you need to, you know, vent and talk and bounce off ideas, there's other people around you that you can, you know, feed off and feed into.
Yeah, I think that's a very nice point that I'd like to sort of wind the podcast up on, but it's building that village around you. That's building your own support network, your own network of whether it be entrepreneurs or fellow chefs or whatever it might be, because those are the people that you need when you are feeling down and out or need whatever. That's the village. So building your own village, that's a concept of, I think that's not fascinating, I think that's a reality of being a successful entrepreneur. It's going to be the strength of that village that you have, building it up.
Can I tell you something? So Black women are usually referred to Imbaroto, which means rock, right? I don't like...
I object that.
Yes.
I don't
so
like that.
recently, towards the end of last year, end of last year, it was before we traveled, I was saying to hubby how I don't like how people refer to Black women as Imbaroto. I'm not a rock. I'm a rose petal.
Oh.
I'm a rose petal. I'm pampered. I'm loved. I'm soft. I'm airy. I smell wonderful. I'm a rose petal. My husband looks and he laughs and he's like, really, baby? Let's ask... no, he's Claude. Okay. His bestie is Claude. And I said to him, literally, I turned around and I said, you're not going to do that. And I said, why? Because he says, no, I'm going to ask for an African version of what you're saying, but that's not a rock. And I said, as soon as you put the word African into it, I can already tell you what the answer is going to be. And he says, what? And I said, it's going to be a baobab tree. I'm not a baobab. And he says, you don't know. Let me put it in. And literally, I said to him, it's going to say baobab. I don't remember what I said the second one was going to be. They said the third one's going to be a marula tree. It was to the T, that response. Yeah. So then he said, no, baby, let me change it and let me say flower. I said, it's not going to tell you rose. It's going to call me a protea. It's going to call me an African lily. And it's going to call me that blue tree, that blue plant. Not the jacaranda. There's a blue plant that's quite common. When we walk outside, I'll show you. And he says, no, baby, it's not. The answer was exactly that. So my sister laughs now. So over the whole festive season, she's been calling me baobab.
There we have the baobab.
I love the baobab tree. I love the baobab tree.
The baobab tree takes 200 years to bear its first fruit.
200 years to bear its first fruit?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, I think some of them come out a bit younger than that.
Well, younger is like 100 years to bear its first fruit.
Yeah.
When you plant a baobab, you're not planting it for yourself. You're planting it for future generations.
Yeah, that talks to the legacy.
And for it to nourish future generations. So I get the analogy. I love the analogy, but I'm not a baobab, guys. No, I'm a rose.
Wait, can you please put a rose on our baobab tree?
A rose petal. Well, there could be rose petals. Anele, thank you so much for being on our show.
Thank you for having me.
It's been absolutely fascinating, and I think the reference to all the topics you brought up that require their own episode, we're probably going to take you up on those because we know there's a richness to your story that we want to take a deep dive into. But as part of the legacy that you are busy building with your business, we're also building a bit of a legacy to our own show here. And what we do have is we've got our tree of life behind you. behind Rahima. And what we do is for us, it represents so much about life. From your ancestors, you're speaking about a baobab tree. The roots go into the soil, and that's where we've come from and grown. And the branches themselves reach up towards the heavens, towards what is possible. And that is part of the whole spirit of alchemy. The fact that if you look at any tree, everything it ever needs to know about itself is contained in one little seed that grows into, whether it's a baobab or an oak or whatever. But we'd like you to leave your mark on the tree as a rose petal leaf on our tree of life, and to become part of the legacy of our show.
Yeah.
So
your painting of the tree of life actually reminds me of my eldest son. His favorite veggie, which he will tell you is not a veggie, is the mushroom.
Oh, really?
And it's because of the whole story of it being fungi.
Yes.
And the whole network of it. So looking at that just reminds me of how many programs he's made me watch on mushrooms.
I like mushrooms, actually. I think they are symbolic in how many different ways you can actually use them. So I think the invitation stands for you to put on your mark.
Yes.
So we're going to let me pass this little stamp to you that you can choose.
Should I get out of the way so that you've got some space?
Probably a good idea. I'm going to stand up and move out the way as well.
This rose petal reaches for the sky.
Perfect. Thank you. That is. Grab a tissue there. Let me grab it. Thank you. Our tree is starting to blossom.
It is. Those rose petals are coming out really nice.
We're going to call them rose petals on our baobab tree.
Well, it could be.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That brings us to the end of this podcast. Unfortunately, as I said, we'd love it to go on for a lot longer. But we do hope that how Anele has chosen her story into being, and the story of the life that she is actively writing and living, we hope that it inspires you to realize that anything is possible, and underlines the fact that the universe favors and supports action. It supports the just do it. Remember, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. All the best. Thank you for viewing this podcast, and we look forward to you visiting and seeing our next one.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it.
That's a wrap.
It's a wrap.
The spirit of alchemy.